Hello everyone, welcome to this new video, and in this video we are going to cover up a new Frontend mentor challenge. So this is exactly the 10th challenge we are going to cover in this YouTube channel, and if you want to watch the rest of the challenges video, I will leave the link of the playlist in the description below. And this is the challenge we are going to cover today. This is called the NFT preview card component. This is a newbie level challenge and it only has this HTML and CSS. So if you don't have any knowledge about the JavaScript, it doesn't matter. So without any further ado, let's get started. And first we need to open up the challenge here and download the starter file. Okay, the starter file has been downloaded. Now let's open this up by the WinRAR, and after that we can extract this. I'm going to extract this on the desktop in here. Now you can close it. So let's see the design first. So this is going to be the active state. When you hover on that, it will look something like this, but the normal desktop design is something like this, and this is the mobile design. So there is actually no difference between the desktop and mobile. It's just a box with some box shadow. So we are going to use the same thing for both desktop and mobile. Now we can open this entire folder with the VS Code. You can use any other code editor you use, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is the index.html and it contains all the text and everything. I don't need this attribution, but if you want to keep it, please keep it. Now I'm going to delete the style as well, and also this on. Fine. Now let's create a style.css file. It will contain the CSS codes we need to design the template or the challenge actually. Okay, so we got the style.css. We need to link up the CSS file, so link CSS, and it is done. So the style.css is linked with the index.html. Now let's open up the style guide, and they have provided us with everything. Now let's open up the index.html with the live server extension, and this is the live preview. Now let's put it here, and the server is in here. Okay, fine. Now let's grab the font family first. Also we can do that later. Let's create the markup first. So let's see the design here. This is the desktop design. We got a box in here, then inside the box there will be an image at the top, then there will be some text, and then author. Okay, so let's create a container div, and then inside it I'm going to create a wrapper div. So I created this container div because I want to give a maximum weight of this element, so it should be inside this weight, but whenever the display size will be smaller than that maximum weight, we need some gap at the left and right, this much gap. That's why I have used this wrapper div, so I can apply some margin with this wrapper. And with the container we are going to apply the maximum height. To make it center, we need to apply the margin 0 auto. So we cannot apply two types of margin with the same element. That's why I have added the wrapper, so that in a smaller size display we can add some margin at left and right. Okay, if you don't understand it properly now, it is going to be very clear when we are going to do the style.css or writing our CSS codes. Okay, at first let's create a div, and I'm going to give this div a class of image top because it is going to contain the image. And let's grab the image. They are in the images folder, then image equilibrium. I hope this is it. Okay, now when you hover on that, we on the eye icon, overlaying on that image. That's why we also need to put the icon in here. So let's do that. We can create a div with a class name of image overlay because it is what it is. Now inside the image overlay, we can put the image of the icon. We don't need to give any class name. Let's get into the images folder, and this is the icon view. Okay, so I think here is the image. We cannot see it because the icon is white color. Okay, the image top is done. Now let's move on to the next stage. So in here we got this link in here as a title, then some normal paragraph text, then these two things. So this is a little bit tricky. We can apply the flexbox to align the icon and the text in both cases. Then we can apply flexbox in both of these boxes and align them properly. So let's create a div with the class of maybe box text, because this is going to contain all the text in the box, or card maybe. Let's first add the anchor tag, and I'm just going to put an hash to make it blank. Now this is our text. Let's cut it and paste it in here. Okay, after that I'll just add a paragraph tag which will contain this simple description text. And once we've done that, now let's move on to this flexbox here. So we can create a div by the name of flex, maybe, just to make sure that we understand what it is about. Now inside it, let's create a div. Let's give this a class name of ETH. This is the short form of Ethereum or something like that. So this will contain two things. There will be an image at the left side and some text at the right side. So let's add the image here, images, and this is the one, I think, icon Ethereum. Yes, this is the icon. Now we need to add the text also. We can use the paragraph tag for that. Let's cut it and paste it here. And the second box is kind of similar, so we can just copy this and we can change the class to maybe days, because this is 3 days left. Let's paste this here, and we also need to change the icon. So this is the clock icon. Okay, we got the clock icon and the Ethereum icon and the text. Now let's move on to the next step, which is the author. Now in the case of the text, the author name is kind of a link, so we need to use the anchor tag there. So this is the flex div. After finishing of the flex div, we also missed one thing, which is this line. We can apply it by two different ways. We can either add a border bottom, or we can just use an HR tag. So let's use an HR tag. We can modify this or style this later. Now let's create a div, maybe give it a class name of author, and inside it let's put the image first, images, then image avatar, and after that let's use the paragraph tag to put the text in here. Let's cut this and paste. So the author name here is kind of a link, so we need to use the anchor tag and put the author name inside that anchor tag. Fine, we are done with the markup. Everything is included. Now let's move on to the style.css and style it. So before starting it, we need to include the font family. So let's follow the link by pressing Alt and click. I think I have already selected the fonts. Yes, I did. So they have told us to include 300, 400 and 600. All are selected. Now let's import this to the CSS. Let's copy and paste it in the style.css. I'm just going to copy this CSS rule so we can apply it later. Okay, now there is some gap at the left and right because of the default margin and padding of the browser, we are going to remove it by using the asterisk, which is the universal selector, and we are going to add the margin 0 and padding 0. We can also add this box sizing border box if we need it later. Okay, fine, let's save. Now as you can see, the gap at the top and left is gone. Okay, now let's move on to the body tag here, and at first I'm going to paste the font family because we are going to apply this font family in all the text of this entire card. Now I also want to make this center, that's why we are going to use the display flex, but let's do that later. Before that, let's target the container div here and give this a maximum height of maybe 350 pixels, and we also want to make it center, that's why we need to use the margin of 0 auto that will make this center. Okay, fine, now let's target the wrapper div in here, and at first I want to give this a margin for a smaller size display, and top and bottom maybe 2 rem and left and right on rem. Now let's also add some padding with it, like 20 pixels. Now we should apply the background color, and they have also given us the background color, and as you can see, the neutral color, this is the main background of the body. So let's apply this first. We can apply it with here background and paste it. Now for the card, we got this color as a background. Let's apply this as well. Fine, let's save. Now we got the background color with that card, but the image is currently overlapping this, so it is kind of looking weird. Now the card is also has this rounded corner, so we need to apply the border radius with that. So let's do that. Border radius maybe 20 pixels. Let's try 15 pixels. Now it is kind of rounded, looks fine. We also need to apply some box shadow with it. We are going to do that later. Now let's target the image top first, image top, but before that let's target the image top and the image and give this a height of 100% so that it doesn't overflow the entire content or the container. Okay, now for the image top, let's give this a border radius first. Border radius, because as you can see here, it also got these rounded corners. So border radius, right, let's try 12 pixels, slightly smaller than the border radius of the wrapper. And it is not actually applying because the image is overflowing the container div, so we need to make the overflow hidden. Now it should be rounded. As you can see, it is rounded. Let me zoom in, but at the bottom it is not totally rounded. That's only because there is this eye icon in here and it is applying on everything. We are going to fix it. So how we are going to do that? Fine, we have this parent element, which is this image top. We are going to apply the position of relative on this image top and make this image overlay as display absolute, then position it over the image. So this is the image top. Let's make it display and position relative. This is the parent element, and we want the image overlay to have the position of absolute. Image overlay, I hope I got the spelling correct. Let's make the position to absolute. Now it is rounded, but as you can see, there is a little bit gap in here. If we inspect it, we can see that, as you can see, there is a little bit gap between the image and the container div. That's because image is an inline element by default. So if we add the display block, it will cover up the entire thing. See, it is now okay. Now we got the image overlay a position of absolute. Now let's give this a specific height and height. Height will be maybe 50 pixels, and we need to also position this at the center, right? So as you can see, the eye icon is at the center. So that's what we are going to do here. So from the left it will be 50%, from the top it will also be 50%. Let's save, and here it is. But this is not properly at the center, so we also need to use the transition property, transform will be 50% and 50% from left and right in both around the x-axis and y-axis. So it will be translate and minus 50% and minus 50%. Let's save. Now it should be at the center, but we have applied everything in here on the image overlay div, and we actually don't want that because we only need the image at the center, but we want the filter on all over the image. So it should be the image overlay and image, which is the icon exactly, and it doesn't make a difference. Now we also want to apply this filter thing on all over the image. So let's target the image overlay here, and it is going to be the same thing, just make some difference with the position. So position will be absolute, of course, but from left it will be 0, and from top it will also be 0. Sorry, not text outline, top it will be 0. Now we cannot say it because it doesn't have a height and height. So the height will be 100% of the parent element, which is this image, and the height will also be 100%, so it will cover the entire image here. Now we cannot differentiate it because it doesn't have any background color, so let's get a background color with that. Okay, I think this is the thing, cyan color, and as you can see, this is the cyan. So we can copy this and paste it in here, but this overlay doesn't got any opacity, so this is totally covered up the image behind it. So we can reduce the opacity a little bit to make it look like this. So how we can do that? We can pass actually 4 parameter in the ASSL color code. So we can add a additional ASSL A means opacity or something like that. So we can use the opacity between 0 and on. So let's use 0.5 maybe. Let's save, and I think it looks like this. So if you want to make it more opaque, you can increase or decrease it. So I think 0.5 is okay, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay, but there is an issue. So we only want this entire thing only when we are going to hover on the image, but other than that it should be invisible, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to make it the display none, and it should be gone now. But when we hover on that, we want to change the display of this image overlay, right? So when we hover on heart, when we hover on the image top, right, this div here, when we hover on the image top, we want this image overlay to be display block or something like that. So let's target the image top and add a hover on that. When we hover on that, we want to target the image overlay and make it display maybe block. Let's save and hover. So it is working just fine. Let's zoom out, not this on the browser. Okay, so this is working fine. Now let's move on to this title here. So it is inside the box text and it got an anchor tag. So let's change the color first. I think it got the color of white in the inactive stage, so we don't need to get anything from the style.md. So I'll just make it triple F, which is white. Also the text decoration will be none, so there should be no underline in here. Let's change the font weight as well, so 600. So let's see, we got the font weight of 300, 400 and 600. So after applying the font weight, we can also add the font size, maybe 21 pixels, to make it slightly larger, and we also need to apply some padding with it to create some distance with the left and top and bottom. We don't need any padding at the left and right, so it should be 0. And the padding is not applied because the anchor tag is by default an inline element, so we need to make it display inline block, and hopefully it will resolve the issue, and it does. Let's make it to the normal size. Okay, display inline block, and when we hover on that, we want the cursor pointer. It is already done because this is an anchor tag, so the styling of this title text is done. Now let's target the paragraph text in here, which is this one, and also these two are paragraph text. So let's change the color first. Okay, what it is, I think this is the soft blue color. I'll just copy this and paste it in here. Okay, it is similar with the image, but when you hover on the text, we need to change the color to something like this, which is the cyan color, I guess. So let's grab this and add a hover. So when we hover on that, we want to change the color. Let's grab the color from here, the cyan color. Fine, it is working just okay. Okay, now let's work on this flex issue. So we got two defined boxes inside another div. So let's target the flex first, and I want to give it a display of flex, and after that we want to align them at the center. So in this case, as you can see, they are keeping the most distance between these two, so we should use the justify content and a space between, not around, between. So these two should be in two defined end of the flex box. Also let's add a padding to create some gap at top and bottom, so 20 pixels and 0. Now let's work on these two separately. So the first div got the class name of ETAs, and the second div got the class of DS. So let's target both of this at the same time, ETAs and DS, and apply the display of flex and align items center. Now it looks fine. Now we also want to add some gap between the icon and the text here. So let's do that. ETAs and P. So this is the text color. This is the normal text color, which is this cyan. I think this is the color. Sorry, this is the one. Let's grab this and give this it as a color. Okay, fine. Now let's also change the font weight to bold 600, and let's also create some gap at the left, so padding left maybe 7 pixels to create some gap with the icon. Okay, it looks similar, right? Now let's move on to the next one, which is this one, this and P. We just only need to add the padding left, nothing else. because the text is already similar with this one. Now let's target the Acer tag in here. So Acer, and if you want to change the color of the Acer, you just need to use the border color. And let's find the suitable color, which is this one for the line. I will just copy this and paste it in here, and it looks similar. Now let's style the author thing. So author, let's make it display flex first. Then we also need to align the items at the center and the padding top, so it will have some gap at the top with the line break here. I don't know, let's use 20 pixels again. That will make similar kind of gap between the text in here. Okay, we are done with the author div. Now let's target the image inside the author div. So we need to give this a specific height and weight, maybe 30 pixels. The weight should be the same because it should be totally circular. We don't need to apply any border radius here because this is already rounded, but if you want to do that, you can also do it like 50%. Now as you can see, it also got this white border all around it, so we need to add a border with that. So border maybe 2 pixels, solid and totally white, triple F. It looks fine, right? We should target the text in there. So let's target the author and then the paragraph tag with the anchor tag. I think this is it. We can also add a class name in here just in case, maybe name. So let's target the anchor tag with the class name of name, and we want to change something, like we want to make the color white because as you can see in the image, this is white. Okay, text decoration is already done, we don't need to do anything about that. So let's reduce the font size to 16 pixels. Okay, it looks great, but we should also have some gap between the image and the text. So what we can do is we can add a margin at the right side, maybe 15 pixels. It looks fine, but when you hover on that, we want to change the color to this cyan. So let's add a hover on this thing, hover, and we just only want to change the color. So this is the same thing, I'll just copy this and paste it in here, and it looks fine, right? But I think there is a little bit issue with the spacing. As you can see, this should be less gap than this one, so we can just reduce the padding top a little bit to maybe 5 pixels and increase this gap. So let's find out the flex and increase it by 5 pixels. Okay, now it looks fine. Now we are done with everything, but as I have said earlier, we need to put it at the center, and we also need a box shadow with this box. So in order to make it at the center, we can use the flex with the body here. So let's make this display flex and justify content center, also the align items center. Now it should be at the center, but it is not because we need to give the same height with the body. Let's give it 100 viewport height. Now it should be at the center. Now we need to apply a box shadow with the box is in here. So this is my favorite tool to create or generate the box shadow. This is called the cssmatic.com/box shadow. And what we need to do is change the text. So let's grab this URL and open it up with the Chrome here. I'm just going to do that because I got a extension to pick up the colors. So let's this is the background color. Let's click it here and press Ctrl C to copy this, and this extension is called the color picker eyedropper. Now this is the background color. I just paste it here. Okay, now we need to change the yellow color as well. So this is the box color. Let's also grab it, copy this and change the box color. Fine, now we got the shadow. This is black, and we also want the black color shadow, as you can see. So we want 0 pixels in both cases, but I want to change the blur radius maybe. I think I will keep it something like this, 29 or 30. Let's make it 30 manually. I cannot grab that. We can also change the spread radius a little bit. I think 5 will be fine. We can also change the opacity, but I'm not going to. Let's just copy the box shadow and apply it here. So we are going to apply it with the wrapper, because this is the container div of the box. Let's paste and save, and as you can see, there is some box shadow with the box. So this is it, and we are done with the project or challenge. And if you want to see the source code, I will upload the entire project in the Codepen. I will also leave the link in the description below. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe, share this video and give this video a thumbs up. Take care and goodbye.